Consumer Talk, featuring Wendy Knowler.
Wendy with us in studio today, and it's lovely to have you back with us as always, Wendy.
Thank you very much.
And as I mentioned, we're talking tow trucks, and I know this is going to be one of those subject matters that unfortunately raises memories of trauma for other listeners, because we know that the complainant today is certainly not the only person who's had the kind of experience she's going to share with us. But our reason for revisiting the topic is because this issue continues to raise its head, and there are a lot of important lessons to be learnt from our listener Caroline's experience. So listen in. If you want to comment or ask a question or tell us what happened to you, you can either call us on 021 446 0567 or send a WhatsApp to 072 567 1567. So, Wendy, the topic, as I said, is unfortunately one of those that never goes away. The issue of engaging a tow truck driver if you've been involved in an accident and your car is so badly damaged that it needs to be towed from the scene. And the industry has the reputation for being a pack of vultures. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, that is a generalization, and it's grossly unfair to the genuinely honest operators who do exist in this market. But unfortunately, there are so many of the other kind that reputation is kind of deserved.
Yeah, so I want to validate what you said about there being some honest, lovely ones out there, and I've encountered them personally. Mm-hmm. And I know from the days of covering the Ford Cougars that were spontaneously igniting on freeways around the country, that in many cases, tow truck drivers who were in the area rushed to help and were absolute guardian angels with no possibility of a tow, of getting anything out of it. So I want to just put that out there. And I only hear from people when they had bad experiences with service providers, right? Yeah. And I have been doing this for 27 years, and I have loads and loads and loads of case studies from people all over the country that have unfortunately had an experience with one of the dodgier end of the players, of the industry. So just to sum up the kinds of things that happen, and we can come back to them at the end in our what to do's. These are the tow truck tricks. Mm-hmm. Okay, they make you believe, if your car is insured, that they've called your insurer and obtained their authorization to tow your car. They say who you with, and you say My Way or Santam, whatever, and they say, right, we're calling them, and then they'll put it on speaker or something, and their chum is saying, yes, of course, yes, we authorize
approve the tow. Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Meanwhile, it's not Santam.
No, so you need to initiate those calls yourself. Don't let any kind, they come across as super kind and wanting to help, right? Okay, so the other one is telling you if your car isn't insured, and this is what I'm getting a rash of at the moment, that the other party's insurer will pay for the towing, which is easy to believe, but in reality that never, ever happens.
Okay.
So don't fall for that one. They fail to disclose what you will have to pay them before they'll release your car, even within 24 hours. Or it's on the back of the form that you might sign at night in light grey print, and definitely not pointed out.
Okay.
And you're not at your full operating capacity after having an accident, even in a minor one. But if your car needs to be towed, it's not going to be in that manner.
It's going to be rattled,
yes.
Yeah.
So you're not thinking to get all this stuff. The other one is ignoring your verbal instruction on where to tow your car. So instead, they take it to their yard. You're not quite sure where that is. By the time you've found it, there are these huge fees that in most cases were not properly disclosed beforehand, plus storage of around up to 1,000 Rand a day. So if it takes you 5 days to find your car, you're already looking at almost 5,000. Yeah, before you've even done the rest. So this has financially devastated many people, and many of them have actually lost their car as a result, because when they get to find the car, it's say 15,000, and then every day that goes by, they are less and less able to afford the fee being charged for release, because it's now got another 1,000 Rand.
And on top of it, yeah.
So I know of cases where they've just relinquished the car.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for pointing out those are potentially the consequences at the end of it. Now, in the case we're looking at today, our complainant actually did the right thing so many ways. Wendy, she picked up her own phone, she dialed her own insurer directly straight away to say, I've been in an accident, the car needs to be towed, please send a tow truck. Even so, she ended up with her car effectively being held hostage by a towing company. And she is with us on the line to share the story, and we're very grateful that she's willing to do so. Caroline Stevenson of Pinelands, welcome to the show, and thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Pippa, and thank you so much to you and Wendy for taking up this battle. because it was really quite a shock. And, as an octogenarian, it's very difficult to deal with something that has happened to you. Firstly, the accident, which you're not expecting, and then to have your vehicle towed away by somebody who tells you, because when they arrived, I asked them if they were from my insurance company, and they said yes, and I duly then gave them permission to tow the vehicle away. I then signed a receipt, which was signed by the driver, and he put a telephone number on it. And I asked him where the tow truck company was based, and he told me it was in Thornton. Now, if you know Cape Town, Thornton is a suburb just right next door to Pinelands.
Yeah.
So I thought there wouldn't be a hassle. They would sort it out. And it was only the next morning when I discovered that they're actually not in Pinelands, in Thornton at all. They're somewhere else, and that the driver was not from our insurance, and that the company was rather shady.
Caroline, I mean, sure, there's so many things to pick up on here. Firstly, won't you just tell us what actually happened? I understand this wasn't an accident of your own making even. You were stationary at a traffic light.
I had just come back from the doctor. I was going in for surgery on Friday morning. And so on Thursday afternoon, I just come back from the doctor to having had a clean bill of health given, and that I would be able to undergo the surgery. So I was driving down Forest Drive, and as you know, at about 4 o'clock, Forest Drive is a bit of a congestion because there's a traffic light on the corner of St. Stephen's and Forest Drive where there's a BP garage.
Yes.
And the traffic was all stopped, a long queue of traffic, commuters going home after work. And I was actually stationary. So I wasn't looking in my rearview mirror. If I suddenly slammed on brakes, I would have looked in my rearview mirror. But I wasn't, because I was stationary. And suddenly I was hit at great speed by a gentleman who I think wasn't paying attention, because he was clearly going too fast for the conditions. You see, there's a slight bend there in the road.
Yeah.
And he had come round the bend and just crashed into the back of me. Well, the car was so badly damaged that I couldn't even open my driver's door.
Sure.
Anyway, he jumped out and came to ask me if I was all right, which I said I was. I had a slight sort of whiplash, but nothing serious. And he said, I'm so sorry, I accept full responsibility. And we then proceeded to exchange details. But before we did that, I got straight onto my insurance. I've got the app on my phone. I phoned our insurance. I told them what had happened, and they said they would send help.
If I can jump in here. Sorry, Caroline. For a lot of people who I hear from, before they can think of towing and insurance or anything else, there's 2-3 tow trucks already at the scene. Yes. I'm guessing that in your case, you got onto the phone before anybody arrived. There was nobody trying to get you to hand over your car to them. Okay,
no,
I just wanted to clarify that.
I legitimately phoned our insurance, and they said there's someone on the way. But unfortunately, these people must have been in the vicinity, because when they arrived, and I said, "Are you from our insurance?" They said, "We had to tow your vehicle," and I said, "Are you from our insurance?" And they said, "Yes."
But they weren't. Okay. So the tow truck belonging to Platinum Roadside Assistance arrives. And there's the first learning, Wendy, is don't initiate the conversation and say, "Are you from our insurance?"
Yes.
Wait for them to say who sent them and see if it correlates. Yes. But Caroline, I totally understand how you would have
timing was
assumed it, because
terrible.
The timing was just shocking.
Absolutely.
So you thought you were dealing with the legitimate tow truck that had been dispatched with the approval and authorization of your insurer.
And importantly, Caroline has now she's got the okay from our insurer, so she's not too worried about the cost, because her insurer is going to pick it up. This is a legitimate accident, and she's phoned and spoke to them. So you weren't that concerned about what it was going to cost you. I think that's an important factor at this point when it comes to signing the form, etc.
Yeah, because Caroline, they then handed you a form, and what was on that form? I mean, did you go through it with any level of detail?
Well, when I got home, I was really traumatized. So I just had my supper and I went to bed. And then the next morning, I found the slip and I saw that it was from this company. And at the bottom, there were a number of tariffs listed. You know, if a tow, it's this amount. If they store, it's this amount. The admin is this amount. And they had a whole lot of things at the bottom. And, of course, they mean nothing to me because I have no idea what it costs to tow a vehicle. So I didn't bother too much about it. But then our insurance phoned me and told me that my vehicle was being held hostage by this other company.
Sure.
So I then phoned the young lady at the reception. And she said to me, I said, you know, you've actually got my vehicle under false pretenses, and I feel like laying a charge of fraud against you. So her response to me was, well, good luck with that. Do you even know the driver's name? Do you have his cell phone? And she says, in the end, it's just your word against his.
Sure.
Okay.
And so that really shocked me. And then, of course, I went back to our insurance and they then sent me the account that they had received from this company. Well, the charges that were on the bottom of the invoice were $375 for storage per day. On the invoice that they sent to our insurance, they were charging $985.
And the same
Huge
same discrepancies with the other price.
Same discrepancies with all the other charges. You know, I mean, I won't bore you with all of those, but they were all much higher. The amount on the invoice was $21,000, and on the receipt that I got was less than $10,000.
So,
Yes.
Wendy, you went through those two documents
I
with a
did.
fine-tooth
I
comb. You had
did.
the form that Caroline signed with the quoted fees and the invoice that was then sent to Artsurance. And as you've said, a discrepancy, I mean, it was more than double.
More than double, yes. But there's something else that's important, and I really want our listeners to understand this, because this is a common theme in the cases that I've taken up. The form, you handing over your car to strangers, essentially, yes, you need to know where it's going. And I note on a lot of the forms, there should be a line that says vehicle to be towed to, because it's your choice. You don't have to agree to it going to a yard. If you wanted to go to your home and then deal with it from there to avoid storage fees, because they wanted to get it to their yard because of the storage fee factor, right? And they add insurance, and they add, not insurance, security. Yes. So in this case, the form says at the top, car stored at yard. Number one, it doesn't say where the car is being towed to. And number two, yard could be on Mars.
Anywhere,
Yes.
Exactly.
And then, sorry,
because
Caroline.
I'd asked them. Okay, sorry.
I just want to say, and further down, underneath we've signed, it says salvage vehicle from Forest Drive. They've written in Forest Drive, and then to yard. So there you don't have a clue where
There's
your
no
car's
address
gone.
of where that yard is.
When you've wake up the next morning and you look at that form, or if you look at it on scene, as I say, Caroline, you weren't too worried because you knew it was in Artsurance's hand, but you don't know where your car's gone. So that's the first thing. Pay attention to you, and if you wanted to go to your address, put your address in and initial next to it, and then make sure you take a copy, because that's your instruction. Everything other than that is rogue.
Okay. Now, Caroline, please stay with us. Wendy, you received all the documentation, including the invoice that they sent to Artsurance, plus that original form that Caroline filled out on the scene. And obviously, your first call was to try and engage with Platinum Roadside Assistance to get their side of the story and follow up, and on particular these two issues. One, the lack of disclosure of the destination that the car was going to, and secondly, that massive discrepancy between what was quoted and what was then put on the invoice.
There's no legal justification then for inflated prices that weren't disclosed fully at the time.
So what luck did you have?
None. In short, I sent my normal media query to the email address on the documentation that Caroline was given at the scene. There was Monday, no response. I phoned the number. Now, Caroline, come in here. The number there was a number printed on the form you were given that was crossed out, and there was another number, but that number didn't work. So I came back to you, and you gave me the number. Where did you get that from?
Well, this is the strange thing. on Monday morning, before I had even wiped the sleep out of my eyes, I got a WhatsApp call, a WhatsApp message from this young lady who works for the company to tell me that the number on the invoice, on the receipt that I was given, was incorrect, and she provided me with the correct number.
So I tried that number,
that's
a
good point.
Yeah, very good point. Well, I don't know. There must have been a reason that worked for them for that. But anyway, I tried that number. I've been trying it since Monday morning, many times. It just rings, and then you can hear it patching over. And I think, okay, they've directed it to another number, and then it just cuts out. When I
did tell you that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You said be patient, but
so no response, multiple attempts to phone them. You've sent an email which has not been responded to either.
And my deadline was 10 o'clock this morning. When I spoke to our insurance to say, well, obviously you've dealt with them. Did you deal with them on email? No. They may have tried, but the engagement that our insurance had with Platinum Roadside Assistance was via the very number that I got no response to. I even tried taking my caller ID number off in case, because I'd given them my cell phone number.
Okay, because maybe they were seeing, Wendy Knowler calling.
Maybe they made a note and saying
one.
block those calls, but I took my caller ID off, would have come across as unknown number, whatever, still nothing. So all I have is a response from our insurance. My first question to our insurance was, having covered many of these cases, I know that insurance companies won't pay for their clients' towing and storage if they relinquish their car to an operation that isn't on their accredited list. I said, but in this case, your client did try to phone you, and there wasn't a name that she had to go on. She was just told yes, and then it was approved.
So this is important. Caroline was told a tow truck was on the way, but Caroline, did our insurance tell you which company's tow truck was on the way, or the name of a driver, or anything like that?
They didn't tell me that. But you see, this is not the first time that I have been rear-ended, because about 18 months ago, I was coming home from town, and a young lady from university bumped into the back of me. But there were 100 tow trucks on the scene straight away.
Yes.
Yeah. And I said, I'm not having any of you. I'm phoning my own company. And in that case, I did get our insurance to come, and all the others were sent away.
Good. Well, so I took this up, as I say, with our insurance, and the response I got was, we have been in discussion with Platinum Roadside Assistance. We have covered the costs and arranged for our client's car to be moved.
Yay.
The move of the car should take place today, which was yesterday. On your question relating to the time that, because I said to both Caroline and our insurance, well, when did the proper one, the authorized one, and neither of them know that. Anyway, and then I also said, could you give key advice for people in this situation, whether they're your clients or not? And I was told, confirm with the insurer the name of the company that has been arranged to tow the vehicle. If, like Caroline, there's nobody on the scene and you're phoning cold, you're phoning the insurer to say, without anyone pestering you, to say, please send one.
You need to know who is being sent.
You need to know who is being sent.
And precisely which company it is. Okay, so that's very good. So our insurance is covering Caroline's costs. And Caroline, is your car back in safe hands? Because, your car was effectively being held hostage for a few days.
My car is back in safe hands. It is, thank you, Pippa. And it has been towed today to the panel beaters in Wynberg, and they are currently examining it to make sure, because there's a huge amount of damage, 68,000 rand.
Oy, shame. Okay, Caroline, I'm really sorry that this happened to you in the first place, but thank you so much for being willing to come on air and just share the details with us.
Thank you so much for doing it, and I'm happy to say I've had a happy ending. My car's with the repairers, and hopefully it will be done in a couple of weeks' time. And thank you to Wendy for taking up this battle. She's absolutely tireless, and I love her for that.
Oh, we feel the same way. Caroline, thank you, and all the best to you, Caroline in Pinelands.
Thanks.
After we've heard the Eyewitness News, we'll come back with the key lessons and just a bit of a recap here on the most important things to take away from Caroline's experience. Now, an important question on the WhatsApp line. Lots of people responding now on the tow truck issue. And Brian is asking, which amount did our insurance pay? Did they pay the 21,000 or the 10,000 Rand that was originally quoted?
They didn't want me to say the exact amount, but I can tell you that they substantially negotiated it down.
Okay, so they were able to get that figure
Yes,
down.
they did not pay 30 something.
Because as somebody is asking, is it not extortion what happened
Well,
here? Okay, so Wendy, all's well that ends well for Caroline. Her car is safely back in reputable hands. The amount is being covered by her insurer, and hopefully she can carry on with her life with some peace of mind again. But there is a lot for all of us to learn from her experience, and that's the key reason we do these kind of cases, is to help everybody else. Do you want to run
yes.
through some of the basics, and then we can tackle some of the questions that have come through?
And Caroline's first email to us, you'll remember, she was very adamant that she wanted other people to benefit from what had happened to her. So this is some of it's a repeat of what I said right at the beginning. So this I didn't say. It's good to know this. Law enforcement officers can give a towing operator at an accident scene a lawful instruction to remove your car off the roadway that you are obstructing at no cost.
Okay.
Right? With that done, you are then free to decide who tows your vehicle. You do not have to then be bullied into letting them take your car. And I think that's quite an empowering bit of information to have if it should happen to you. So if you're obstructing, the police is on the scene and there's a tow truck nearby, and rather than wait for the authorized one or the whatever, they can say, just move this car. I mean, it's literally a few meters. And then that's it. And it doesn't cost you anything, and at that point your relationship with that company can end. You don't have to then go with them.
Okay.
If your car is insured, make sure you make the call to the insurer yourself to make sure that the company which the driver represents is actually on its approved list. If you ask one and they're not, they are in most cases likely to say yes anyway.
So this is something to emphasize really, and please just keep your wits about you. They will lie to you. You can ask, are you approved by my insurer? And even if they're not, they might say yes.
Yes.
The other thing they do, and I just want to emphasize this, you did say it at the beginning, Wendy, is they say, we'll call for you.
Yes,
because we can see you're rattled. Let me make the phone call for you. They're not actually phoning your insurer.
No.
They're phoning their chummy or somebody else. So make sure that you make that call yourself to the number that you have stored on your phone.
That's what I was about to say. Yes, exactly. Because so that you don't go looking, you have it already saved. If you make that call before the driver is on the scene, and I've added this to my standard list of advice around here since covering Caroline's experience, make sure that your insurance company rep you're speaking to on the phone gives you the name of the approved tow truck operator which they've authorized to tow your car. If you are not insured, and that's, let's not forget,
a lot of people,
about 2/3 of the motorists on the road, do not fall for the line that the other party's insurance will pay for your towage and storage fee. I've had a rash of complaints about this, because they absolutely will not. And they found out later the car's gone, and then they're in for whatever, 12,000 Rand. They're not sure. They're not paying attention because they think the other party's insurance company is going to cover it. They don't know where the car is exactly. It's
just a nightmare.
If you are not insured, say if there are two, this industry is not regulated. There are two self-regulatory bodies that cover the tow truck industry, and they have members. And if you have a bad experience as one of them, at least you can go to the association and try and get them to mediate. Also, they can give you the names of someone that they would recommend, right? So the first industry body is the South African Towing and Recovery Association. That's SATRA. They have a 24-hour line. Just Google it, put it in your phone if you're not insured. And there's another one, the United Towing Association of South Africa, UTASA. Just if you can't catch all that, just Google South African Towing Associations and get their details. And what I would suggest is that it's in your phone and make the call from the scene and say, I've got 3 or 4 operators here. I'm not insured. Which one would you recommend? What do you suggest I do? You've just got another voice at the end of the line that can help
with
you.
some insight. Okay.
Yeah.
And Wendy, the other important thing is whatever is said to you on the scene, try and make a record of it. So take a photograph of anything you sign if they're not giving you a copy. But you recommend going a step further than that and recording.
More and more, because we have this technology in our hands. As they're saying, we're going to take your car here, or yes, we'll take the car to your home, whatever. Video them saying that. and also make sure it's on the form. But if someone starts backing away and not wanting to be recorded, when they're just giving simple
sign.
transactional information, then it should be a hard no from you.
Okay, thank you so much.
So we need to protect ourselves with what we have at hand, and we have this.
As you've said
stuff
before,
at
we
many
have a
times.
phone, use it for
Yes.
these purposes. Okay, so you get to decide where the car's going. Make sure you've got that information written down with an address on the form.
Yes.
And take a photograph of it. Okay. Right, a couple of responses here. Let's have a look. Susan saying, thank you so much for this information. About 30 years ago, I had a similar experience, and in all the confusion, I lost my car and somehow could never understand how everything went so wrong. I feel really relieved to know this happens to others too. I'm so sorry that you had that experience,
awful.
Susan. Awful.
But it bears up what I've been saying.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon.
Lynette in Newlands wondering on the subject of corrupt tow trucks whether insurers should offer insurance to cover rogue tow truck drivers. I wonder if they haven't already
they
done
would
that.
probably consider that too high risk. What they'll say is insure your car and we'll take care of you if you know, if you
Marty says, I recall 30 years ago, Galaxy Tow Company used illegal police radio interception to know where to go to after an accident occurred. I vaguely remember that, Marty. His comments, so many of these tow truck drivers break the speed limit, dashing to the accident. First truck gets the job is their motto. And then the usual ploy of pretending to be extremely helpful while actually preparing to fleece the victim. The storage costs are the huge money maker, is his comment. David in Kales River making a very pertinent comment. Another point to remember is to remove everything from the vehicle before it is towed away, because if you leave anything
and
inside
I would
the car,
add, take photographs. If you have trim removed or spare wheel or something like that, just look, it's a lot to remember when you're in not the best frame of mind. But we have to just keep, I both my children drive, and I'm constantly reminding them of these things. They probably phone me at first call, but yes.
But I told my daughter the same thing on Monday when she was in the car with me, Wendy. Wendy's covering a case this week, and this is what you need to know. 4 or 5 people asking the same question, and it's a very important one. What if you're incapacitated? What if you are unconscious as a result of the accident? What then who gives the go-ahead for towing? Who pays for it? What happens?
Well, that's a good question. I would imagine that one of the first responders would take control of that. Make sure you have, in case of emergency, ICE, a contact number in your phone. Thank you for the opportunity to repeat this. And they will look for ICE on your phone. How do they get into your phone? That's the thing.
Well, they can scan it with your face. But, I mean,
true.
The other thing is, if you are insured and you have an insurer who will have a designated tow truck, they give you stickers to put in your car exactly this reason.
They do, and use those stickers.
Yeah, so put them in the car. It'll generally say, do not tow unless call this number. So that's the reason your insurance company is giving them to you. Don't just put them in a drawer and ignore them. Put them on the car so that if that happens and you can't speak for yourself, the authorities on scene know that the authorized insurer is the one whose sticker is on your car.
You would then have a case again if you were unconscious and you had a do not tow on the car, and they towed all that could happen legally was for that car to be towed out of the traffic, out of the road,
side of the
and
road,
onto the side, and then if they are a company not that you are not contracted to, and they took your car anyway, well, that would be, you would then have a case not to pay those fees. But I mean, then you would probably need legal help if they were really at the bottom end of the moral compass.
Yeah, which unfortunately some of them
That's
are.
a bad analogy. The bottom end of a compass. Sorry about that.
Gareth saying apparently SAPs can take a car to a police station if necessary in a case like that. So, several people saying, please put the sticker your insurer gives you in the car with all of the details of approved towers. An old trick, says George, often the vehicle does not necessarily even require towing if you've been an offender bender, but the tow truck driver makes you panic and tells you there's a chance the electrics might short and cause a fire, etc.
Thank you for that.
So it's important for you to decide whether your vehicle can be safely driven away. Because, somebody was asking earlier, can you just drive, Cheryl, is one allowed to drive one's own car away from an accident instead of it having it towed?
Look, there's several aspects to this. If your car's got some kind of warning light that comes on, I would certainly not drive the car, because then your insurance company won't settle that claim.
If something goes further
yes,
wrong.
because you've now caused the further damage. Well, they certainly won't settle that part of the claim. It's often not if you're not a mechanic, you might not know for sure that you're not going to be causing more damage. This happened to my mother about 15 years ago, I remember. And she was just not taking well to being bullied. She didn't phone me. She just handled it herself and said, I'm taking my car, go away. And she lived a kilometre away from the accident scene and everything was fine. But it is a bit risky if you don't know for sure.
Yeah. So difficult one that. But yes, technically, Cheryl, if your car is safe to drive away, you can drive away from the accident.
They're
and then
not
get it to your
in
mechanic.
charge of you.
Yeah.
They don't have any authority over you. What they have is if you let them, they have your property, and then that puts them in a position of strength.
But only if you give it to them.
Only if you give it to them.
Yeah. Shame, another one here saying, my mother-in-law crashed her car. I arrived on the scene to find that the towers had told her the radiator was damaged and the car couldn't be driven. I could see it was actually the window washer bottle that had been crushed in the front bumper.
Goodness.
They had loaded and towed the car. It was fraud. I really hope you pursued that one. Oh dear, so many people are starting to send us the kind of billing that they received, etc. And the figures are extortionate. Let's call it what it is. Okay. We have got a voice note that's come in from Clive responding to that with another suggestion, which we haven't mentioned, but I think is a very good one. Let's take a listen to that.
What may also be an idea, even if you're not with the AA, contact them and ask them if they know about the agents that are trying to tow your car.
That's an idea. So the Automobile Association, as if you remember, obviously they're an excellent resource to call.
Yes,
if you're not a member, I don't know.
Those two organisations that I mentioned.
Yeah.
If you're not insured, I mean, if you're insured, you go straight to your insurance company.
To your insurer.
If you're not insured, I think those associations are certainly going to help you, steer you
towards a reputable person. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Right. On a completely different subject, I think we have got time for one or two open line calls. Oh, Trish. My heart sinks because it's been happening to me as well, although not from the same company. Trish wants to know, how do we deal with a company called New Debt? I have spent so much time on the phone to them, trying to let them know I have zero debt with them, but I continue to get threatening SMSs from them, telling me I have a debt with MTN, which I definitely do not have. It's super frustrating, intimidating, and harassing. I'm being messaged multiple times a week, at least 3 times a week. Every number they send them from is different. And when I block one, another one comes up.
Okay, 2 things.
Yeah.
So, one, you could report it to the Debt Collectors Council, as you did, Pippa, when you had a similar situation.
Yes, and I've done it again very recently, and it's worked.
Great.
I had a very similar 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they responded almost immediately with an email ceasing in the debt collection company in question, saying, please resolve this, and I've not heard another thing.
Great.
Yeah.
So there's that. That's powerful. Or if you know, they're required to tell you details about the debt, the amount, your contract number, etc. So if there's a small chance that through some kind of misunderstanding that you do owe that cell phone service provider money, then email me and I can take it up with MTN. They're very good at responding to media queries and just say, look, this is the situation. If that debt doesn't exist, it's illegitimate, you need to call the dogs off. And that's it.
Okay.
So there's 2 options there.
Thank you so much for that. Okay. Right. Let's have a look here. Let's go to an email one, if we may, on our email open line questions. Stephanie asking an interesting question. Why isn't it obligatory for South African-based online stores to add the country of origin to an item's online description or where the item was manufactured? She says, I almost never see that detail in the descriptions. In the same vein, are South African retailers, manufacturers, wholesalers, creators, etc., not obliged to add country of origin to a physical item that is packaged and labeled? Sometimes the food packaging will just say manufactured for company X or packaged for company Y. But the same should apply to packaging for pharmaceuticals. So firstly, is it law that you have to say where an item was sourced from or
food,
made in?
It falls under the Department of Health's food regulations, and they're very strict about country of origin. So sometimes on honey you will see there's a dispensation for honey because it's so seasonal. So that's why you get this made in South Africa or stroke China and every other country rather, that they could possibly have sourced from, because the reasoning is they can't be expected to have multiple labels depending on what they're packaging at that time.
Okay.
So it doesn't really tell consumers very much unless it's only South Africa. But for clothing, I must admit I'm not 100% sure on this, but I don't think there is an obligation to tell you where an item of clothing was sourced. The better retailers do always
yes.
tell you where something was made.
But not obliged to. So in food, they are obliged
I'll
to.
check on the clothing thing, but I have a feeling it's not as strict as for food.
Okay.
For
thanks
obvious
that.
reasons.
Interesting question, though, Stephanie. Because
Yes.
especially if you want to
Yes.
very deliberately make a policy of
course.
buying local and supporting local manufacture, obviously you know not to then buy on the big international platforms. But if you're buying what you think is made in South Africa and it's actually turning out to be made in China, it's defeating the whole purpose. So I
It
take
is
your
indeed.
point. Yeah.
But the bigger local, you will always see where it's made with your bigger.
The bigger retailers.
Always.
Okay. This was a very interesting one from Zuki. And she wrote in to say, I'm registered on the Clicks website for online shopping. Recently, when I was trying to log on to my account, the site has started requiring verification of one's mobile number, which Zuki says is a perfectly understandable security measure. But here's the problem she encountered. I was unable to receive the one-time PIN that was sent to my registered number. And when I tried to find out why, it turns out that the one-time PIN cannot be received if one is registered on the WASPA Do Not Contact list, which Zuki is, because she doesn't want to receive spam communications. So she says the only way for me to continue purchasing using my online account was either to provide an alternative cell phone number or to go onto WASPA and deregister, which she doesn't feel she should be obliged to do. Are you aware of this issue? She says she thinks Click should find a different way around the one-time PIN issue.
I was not, but I am now, and I'm very indebted to you, Suki. I will most definitely take that up with Clicks. I'm pretty sure it was an unintended consequence because they don't want to discourage custom. So it's a different class of contact. You're doing it as a transactional. You're needing to get the SMS. It's not a marketing
It's
SMS.
not a
You want to
marketing
stop
question,
marketing.
yeah.
You want to stop unsolicited marketing, but now it's being applied. So I think I must definitely get hold of WASPA as well. Let me come back with the full answer next week.
Okay, thanks for that, Suki. So to be
WASPA
continued.
and Clicks will be contacted.
Okay. And then, one last one. Trish saying, I'm glad to hear that your debt collection story was settled. Have the Techie Town emails stopped coming? No luck there, I'm afraid. I went and did a double check again today with the... it's been referred to the information regulator, and I checked again because I suddenly thought it's been quite a while since I lodged the complaint against Techie Town. 90 working days is what it said, Wendy. So it's going to be a long while yet before we have a follow-up on that
Does
one.
that take us beyond Christmas?
It does. I think it will, yeah. So we'll
goodness.
probably pick up on that one in the new year again. But certainly referring harassment by a debt collector to the Debt Collectors Association bore very rapid fruit for me. And I should add, very rapid fruit for ordinary Mrs. X from Mowbray, who mailed them in my married name on my married email address. No connection to CapeTalk or anything like that. So don't think that they responded because they knew they'd be talked about on CapeTalk.
I
It was
deal
done
with
in my private capacity.
I deal with them often over an ongoing story for the last 10 years where they long story. They pretend the fake Telkom story we've had on this show, where they phone up and pretend to be from the Telkom directory, and
yes,
and
the
you sign
selling
a
directory,
thing,
yes, listings.
and so then they get a debt collector to phone and harass you. And I've had them; they're very proactive and very committed, and it's a great organisation in my view.
So Trish, really do give that a chance. If you can't come right with the company itself, do lodge a complaint. And in my case, literally it was sorted out within 48 hours and the debt collection harassment stopped.
Right.
So I hope that works for you as well.